We've been here, what, 2 years? We went in 22, and I don't know who the commissioners are by now. All right. Building under finance, I'm pretty sure. And thank you, Lord.
Come to order. I want to welcome everybody to Hamblen County. Hamblen County Commission
Amen.
meetings for this February 10th, 2025. Commissioners, I ask you to please turn on your microphones. Everyone else, I ask that you silence your devices, phones, and whatnot. Before we get into our committee meetings, I think we have at least one item that we have people that are very passionate about, and it can get a bit contentious. So let me say these things. We're here, your chance to speak is for objective opinion. And that's fine. We're looking for that, we want to hear that, and we welcome that. And how everybody is really protective of their First Amendment rights. So am I. And that's why you have a chance to speak openly at these meetings. One of the things we want to keep in mind, when we look at the First Amendment, we do have some exceptions to the First Amendment, and I want us to take these things and deal with them when you come up to speak. We've never had a real issue with profanity, but we do have sometimes some defamation. We want to stay away from that.
Thank you, Lord.
Refrain from fighting words. Don't challenge it. Don't challenge anyone. True threats. We're not going to have those. Added into that, I don't think is a problem, is child pornography. We're not going to question somebody's Christianity. Okay? We're not going to get up here and assume that anyone up here is not saved by the grace of God. And we're not going to have that posture at the podium. We will keep it civil. We'll move forward. And everybody will get a chance to speak their piece, say what they want. Don't try to put words or thoughts in the minds of the commissioners. Don't address us and say, I know what you're thinking, or I know what you're going to say. You do not. We will not abide by that. So please conduct yourself as adults, as ladies and gentlemen. Okay. With that, we'll move to our first committee, the Justice Jail Center, Chairman Tim Horner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call the Justice Center Public Safety Committee to order. If anyone wishes to address may do so at this time. You'll have 3 minutes. Seeing none, item 3A, old business, there is none. Item 4A, Justice Center project update, Jaron Dowater, Burwell Construction.
Good evening. Time goes real quick in these meetings. We'll give a quick overview of where we're at with the Justice Center. Let me see if I can figure this out. Back view, this is where you actually deliver. You'll have deliveries out back through this area, but I don't think we had a shot of this before. Generator systems that are out back to help power that if the power decides to go down. Interesting views from here. This is the crow's nest, where they'll be overviewing the different pods that are there. Very visible, great visibility. The pods are very close to being done. What you can't see in this is all the hardware has been installed, security systems have been installed. Above ceiling rough-in has been done. They're prepping for different inspections and closing up ceilings in different areas. A little bit too fast there. Just more of the different pods at different stages. Generally going from level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1's the most finished. Level 2's getting right behind that. Level 3 is the one in the rear that's following up. Here's some of the exciting stuff. The storage. There's your high capacity storage. That's owner-related item. So we're getting some of those things placed and installed there. This is one of the courtrooms, just showing a little bit more finished. Flooring's in place. The walls are complete. The sound walls are in. Above ceiling inspections should be completed this week, and then they'll start closing up all of the ceilings in the courthouse area. So the back office areas here, same thing, just touch up and different things they're doing. Front entrance, they're finishing up the reception desk. So some of that millwork is being completed now. Everything else is complete in that space. It looks a mess, but it's a good mess at this stage. All the paneling's in, the wood paneling's in. Above ceiling inspections are taking place again, so all of that will be dropped in here in the next couple of weeks. But you can see paint is being touched up, and door jambs are being painted, and final paint is taking place. Just the security gates, they've got a lot of that completed. Just to show you the mess of cabling that's still going on for the security systems. I'm always fascinated by all the MEP coordination that they go through. This doesn't quite give you the visual that it is, but those domestic cold water intakes are about that large around. So massive, massive infrastructure in place for this building. This is a work area. What is that? Work release area. Yeah, sorry, I drew a blank on that, but there'll be cots in here. What we're showing in this is all of the security grid is in place. So all the above ceiling inspections are done, and that's been put in place. And there's just testing lights at this point on that. Front entrance, the front gate entrance here, being completed. Touch-up paint. That's about it. A lot of things going on. They're tracking to be substantially complete in April. The contract value is still sitting at $95,066,230.11. Our total completed to date, we did not receive a billing for this month. There's things they're working out. We'll probably receive one the following month. So these are a little low for where they're at, but they're still showing at 97.61% with $92,793,932.11 in place, with materials stored of $1,399,000. Again, I believe those numbers have shifted, but that's all we can project without having a billing from them. We're not presenting any change orders this month. That's where we're at. Is there any questions?
Take it.
Okay, yeah, when you went to that crow's nest, now that, does it look out onto just one floor? I assume, yeah, that.
Yeah, it's a pod system has 2 floors in it, right? So you've got the lower deck and the upper deck.
Okay.
So one floor is basically 2 stories in there, but you're looking at 3 separate pods. Yeah. So you've got this wing, you've got another wing here, and then another wing on the other side.
So like
you
3
can see
spokes.
all of that
Okay.
from that
Okay.
location.
All right.
Great visibility.
Yes, sir. Now, when you went to the work release room, that's a pretty big room. And now, what will happen there? What will happen there?
I can't speak to what will
Yes, sir.
take place in there, but it's in the basement, level 0.
Yes, sir.
I think they're inmates that are allowed to go do more things than just, you know, they're gonna be
Trustees.
helping in the,
Trustees.
I'm sorry?
Trustees.
Trustees? So I can't speak to that on my end.
It looked, okay, just looked a little open, and I wondered where security was in that building, in that floor. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner?
First question, any idea when the move-in date will be for that jail?
Move in for, well, we're starting to move some things in.
As
As you
far
can
as
see, that's
business.
owner-related items.
As far as business, in other words, start bringing in prisoners and, taking care of that, so,
So-
any idea?
They are looking towards the end of April for substantial completion. There should be 2 months beyond that for final completion. So that puts it mid-June. Towards the end of June is what I suspect.
Okay,
Those details are being worked out now.
okay. All right. Two questions, and this may have to go to the mayor, because I'm just curious. Have they started negotiating where we had the change orders and everything as far as, let me think of a way of putting it. We had discussed some of that shouldn't be tallied to the Hamblen County citizens. It should have been forward back, and if you're aware of it, have they started those negotiations, sir?
They've been ongoing. So those negotiations have been ongoing with the architect. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes, sir.
Some of those items that we felt should not have been completely allocated to the county. So yes,
Amen.
those negotiations are in place.
When will we see a report on that telling us exactly what is and what is not, and what percentage thereof?
I would suspect after negotiations are complete and everything's finalized with them
When do you foresee that happening?
before end of project.
So you're saying possibly in June of '25?
That would be the end date. I don't know when we'll have our final complete
Okay,
negotiations done.
okay.
But it'd be done prior to the end of the project, so.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, can you give us an update on that to tell us where that's at, please,
I
sir?
would repeat what Mr. Dowalter just said. We are in current conversations and getting that elaborated or put together, collaborated together between Burwell and Blaine and Mosley, everybody, all parties involved. And we're working on behalf of the county, Ms. Green, and you will get that information when it's time.
So you think it'll be a little while, Mr.
Ma'am, I
Mayor?
don't have that answer for you, just as he said. He very eloquently told you, we don't have that yet. As we get toward the end of this project, we will have some more information.
One more question, and you may have to take this, so forgive my ignorance to which one this needs to go to. We had talked in the past that whether it was the people working or whatever, if they were behind, there were penalties, if I remember the verbiage correctly. And if I didn't remember correctly, please correct me and enlighten me at this point. But have they started that negotiation at all for them to pay their penalties?
Ma'am, we just told you exactly. That's part of that negotiation.
So no reports at this
That
time?
includes Blaine, if you remember, that's our construction.
Yes, sir.
That is, exactly. That's part of our negotiation. Blaine, Mosley, and Burwell, our project manager, is well involved in this negotiation.
Well, now, I'm curious. I was thinking somebody told me what that penalty was, Mr. Mayor. Do you care to enlighten me?
There is a penalty that's being negotiated, and not at this time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Horner. We'll now move to the Budget Committee. Chairman Long.
Call the Budget Committee to order. Is there any visitors wishing to address the committee at this time? You may have 3 minutes. Seeing none, move on. We have no old business. Our new business is the fiscal year 25-26 preliminary budget plan of action. Finance Director Amanda Hale, please.
So before you tonight is the preliminary budget schedule calendar for the coming year. It's very similar to ones we've had in the past, and as we did last year, there is a Saturday workshop scheduled. You'll notice it's on Saturday, May the 17th. And that will give us time to hopefully meet with each department that requests to come, the nonprofits, and still get us wrapped up in time to submit it to the state before June 30th.
Anyone have any questions on this? Ms. Howe?
Yes, sir, thank you. I don't have a question about the schedule. That's lovely. I hope we're encouraging everybody to think tiny, not big, nobody needs 5 and 10%, you know.
Amen.
If 1 or 2% or less works, I'd be happy. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Howe, a letter has been sent out to all county departments to form their government, their budget and everything. Mr. Chairman, do we need to vote on this and accept this schedule or not?
Yes.
Do I have a motion we accept?
So moved.
We have a first by Ms. Ahern, a second by Mr. Richardson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No,
We have 13-1.
That's it. Motion passes.
That's all I have on the budget.
Thank you, Chairman Long. We'll move now to the Finance Committee. Go back to Chairman Long.
Call the Finance Committee to order. If there is any visitors wishing to address the committee, they may do so at this time. Seeing none, we will move forward.
Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. I'd like to talk actually about several things, but since you only allow 3 minutes, I want to talk about 2 things. I've got 90 seconds for each. So I'll hit right into it. First, I'd like to talk about the private acts, the resolutions regarding them, or whatever it is you have, because there's nothing in the packet. Not exactly surprising, but, you know, it would be really nice to be able to have a framework that you're starting from. I feel sure that Mr. Eldridge, Mr. Faison, and Mr. Sutherland have probably been talked to, discussed, or private act changes have been discussed with them. But there's nothing in your packet about that. I know we can't ask questions. Well, we can ask questions, but we can't expect answers. But I hope someone will find out whether they already have held places in the General Assembly for introduction of a private act on the county attorney and on the road commission. And looking around, I did not see the county attorney, but I'm sure he got that $100 check this month. I don't know why he didn't, the minute it was found that he was taking or double dipping billing for something he'd already been paid for. I don't know why he didn't just say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and correct it.
Ms. Noy, this is in court. We'll let the courts decide that, please.
That doesn't mean I can't
Ma'am?
talk about that. What?
I said no.
I'm gonna go on, and you can get Mr. Ellis, and you can do your little thing.
You
This
don't
is
want-
ridiculous.
That
is on the agenda, and I am
the
talking about
court
it.
case is not on the agenda.
I didn't mention the court case. I mentioned the fact he was not here, and I mentioned, I don't know
I
why he
heard
didn't
what you
just
said,
apologize.
and we're not going there.
I'm going there.
No, you're not.
As I said, I don't know why, when this initially was brought up by Ms. Green back in 2018, why Mr. Capps didn't just say, I'm sorry, I
Ms.
didn't know
Noy,
about that.
I told you twice, you're not gonna bring that up. That's not germane to what we're doing here tonight.
Either stop that or I'm just going right on.
You'll be escorted out. Do you want that again?
If that's the way you want to
Do you wanna
operate,
go through that again?
no, that was stupid. Not on my part, stupid on the part of people.
Your time is finished. You can have a seat, or you will be escorted out. Make your choice.
There's a court that can help.
Amen.
Anybody else wish to address the committee?
Gwendolyn Holden, 8150 West Point Drive. I want to know why y'all are amending the private act. Why does it need to be amended? I guess I won't get an answer, but it probably was because I sued the road department for taking money they wasn't supposed to be getting. And nobody knew about the private act. Nobody. Not even the people that worked in the courthouse. That is a disgrace. That is a disgrace to the citizens of Hamblen County. I can't take free money. I can't take money. You need to read your rules. Yeah, that's another thing. We've been asking about the rules, and we still ain't got the rules. I bet you all don't even have the rules.
Anyone else wishes to address the committee?
Kim Coffee, 8220 East AJ Highway. I understand that tonight is possibly the voting on the camper issue. I really wish y'all would reconsider.
Ms. Coffey.
That's not
it'll
on-
Come up
Is that
later.
not tonight?
It is, but it's later. It's in a
Okay.
different committee.
All right.
That's fine. You'll have,
That's the only thing I've got a problem with.
okay.
Bless her
You'll
Lord.
have your opportunity. Thank you.
Bless her Lord. Amen.
Anyone else wishing to address?
Point of order, it's not church. We keep getting amens, it's not.
Yeah, I think that's inappropriate. Ms. Green, would you please refrain from that?
I'll try for the Lord to hold my tongue, sir.
Well, if he doesn't, then I'll ask you to leave.
That's your privilege, sir, under freedom of speech.
Go ahead, Mr.
Move
Long.
on down to item number 3, the recurring business. Had a chance to go over the expenditure reports and the monthly checks. We'll move on to number 5, new business. We'll start with A, Resolution 25, a resolution authorizing Hamblen County to accept an award for the funding year 24 Edward Ryan Memorial Justice Assistant Grant, Barbara Horton, Grant Coordinator.
Good evening. This is a grant that's awarded based on our demographics from the state of Tennessee, and the JAG uses a special formula to give us the award. So the dollar amount that's on this resolution was awarded to us, and what they do is they notify us. It's for Morristown, City of Morristown and Hamblen County, and then we have to apply back with something that shows how we're going to combat crime or do some kind of intervention. And so we went back to do security upgrades for our new Justice Center, and that's what we're proposing with this money, which would allow us to buy an x-ray machine for the front of the vestibule and a 3-foot entrance and exit roller bed. So that's what we want to use it for. And behind it is a interlocal agreement, and that is because we used to split it, the county and city used to split the funding, and it was decided a few years back that we would sign this interlocal agreement, and we would take turns every other year with the county getting the full funding one year and the city getting the full funding the other year, so we could do better things, each entity with full amount.
You know how much it is?
It is the award? Yes, it is on the resolution, $14,776.
Any other questions?
Is this our year to get it, or
It
does
is.
the city get it?
The city got it last year. It's
Okay,
our year to
thank you,
get it.
ma'am.
Mhm.
Anyone else have a question? We will vote these item A first. Do I ever hear a motion for item A?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll go to item B, the interlocal agreement between the city of Morristown and the county of Hamblen. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ahern. Do I have a second?
Second.
Stan, Mr. Harville. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will move now to item 5C, amending private act for the Road Commission of Hamblen County, Tennessee. Chris Cutshaw, County Mayor.
Good evening, Commissioners. The reason I bring this to you tonight, there's been talk in the last year of the Private Act of 1949, if you will, Chapter 313, the Road Commission Private Act. The Road Commission are, they are elected and should be active throughout the month, not just on meeting day. Current language in the Private Act in Section 2 states, upon attending the regular scheduled meetings of the Road Commission, they shall receive compensation. I submit to you that commissioners are available throughout the month, not just on meeting day. Driving the roads in their districts they represent, taking calls, working with other people, not just on the meeting day. Therefore, I think an update is needed in this Private Act to reflect that. This commission is an example of an elected body that doesn't have to be here to be paid. They're an elected body. They don't do their work on one day, they do their work throughout the month. I'm just advocating that it's this Finance Committee take this up. No decision has to be made tonight. It can be for discussion. But I think it's the fair thing to do. This is a Private Act of 1949. And we've moved from that. Furthermore, if that were to be said or amended, that a chairman could make a reasonable decision if a commissioner did miss. You can have a death in the family, done the work the whole month, and just one day that commissioner misses for one reason or another, sickness, for whatever reason, and that chairman would have that ability to override that. I'm not suggesting, I think it's incumbent on every elected official to be here. I've been fortunate when I served as a commissioner, and now I've only missed one roll call meeting in my time. I'm grateful that I had that opportunity. Others have had things pop up. We've had several on this commission miss many meetings. They didn't miss a paycheck. That's the reason I bring this to you tonight. There's some other things with the Private Act of the Road Commission that I'd like to bring to your attention. Private Act Purchasing, Section 5. Review and approve invoices and warrants are issued. That's not our procedure. It's after the fact, but the Private Act says so. Private Act Personnel, Section 4. Personnel approved by the Road Commission is in direct conflict with the TCA. Superintendent has the final authority. That's not what the Private Act says. Private Act Section 5, Paragraph 3. We're to have records available at all times. There needs to be possibly an open records policy adopted for the Road Commission. These are just suggestions to you that I ask you to take up, to look at, to see what you think. This legislative body can make this decision, and then we can carry that to our state delegation and ask them if they would please. The framework of this entire thing is in the bill, in the Private Act itself. There is no nefarious reasons for this. It's just seeing an issue and trying to remedy that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Yes, please.
Ms. Green?
Mr. Mayor, 2 questions. That was updated, if I remember my paperwork correctly, in 1996 the last time, when I printed it off a few days ago. My question to you, sir, is, first of all, do we have a placement for that? Are we going to get to see what you're proposing?
Ma'am, you've been instructed by outside folks. I'll tell you what I know. I just brought you what I know. I have not contacted anyone to do anything nefarious as you're suggesting. Okay?
I just asked, sir.
No,
I
you
didn't
have
suggest,
reasons
I just
behind that.
asked.
I am trying to do something positive for the community, for the Road Commission, and you're very much digging.
No, sir, I'm not.
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Well, sir, If you don't care, please answer the rest of my questions if you could,
And what was the
please.
rest of your question?
Please, sir, if it's not too much trouble, sir.
I don't know what the rest of your question was.
Well, if you'll give me just a moment, sir, I'll give them to you. If you'll have a little patience
You're wasting
with
this
sir.
body's time, would you please? Please?
We are
What's your
paid by the
question?
people
Ms.
to ask
Green,
questions.
let's
What
Yes,
is
move
your
on.
question?
Please move
Two
on.
questions. First of all, you said you don't know if there's a placement, am I correct?
Ma'am, I know there is not a placement. I have not contacted the state delegation on this matter.
Okay, when will we see the framework that they are proposing?
Ma'am, I just brought it tonight. Listen, you're asking questions. It's way above your pay grade. I don't have any answers for you. I brought it to the commission tonight for discussion.
Okay,
That's it, period. End of story.
okay.
Anyone else have any discussion? Mr. Neesmith.
Back when, in the day, Mr. Bell and Dan, when a road commissioner was elected, he represented the people.
Amen.
When he went to the meeting, they had a say-so in the road commission's meeting. The road commissioners appointed the superintendent of roads. Right, Stan? But now road commissioners don't have any authority. They'll go out there to a meeting and say, well, there's a tree down on the road here, or there's a pothole out here. But we never, I bring them up my way all the time, just have them come up by and just see that road. But like I say, that road's not been patched in a year and a half, 2 years. Not been paved in 38 years. And it don't need to be paved. The whole road doesn't need to be paved. But there's spots are where the garbage truck comes down through it, and where the garbage truck wheels run when it rains and comes a storm, water can't get in a ditch because there's not a ditch there. You've got two creeks going down the middle of that road. And that's what's washing your road out. That's what's making your road bad, all that water in it. And I preached on that for years, but I think Mike said he and the superintendent come out there and looked at it.
Mr. Neesmith, I think we're getting off track here. Are you suggesting doing away
No,
with the road?
I was just saying that the road commissioners had a say-so at the road department.
Are you suggesting doing away with the road commission?
No, I'm not saying that. I think they need a little say-so out there.
Anybody else?
Chairman Long? Chairman Long, I would suggest that the Finance Committee debate among themselves and maybe, think about putting together something that you could present maybe in March. It's just a thought, and listen, it's this body's decision, not mine. I just merely point out the obvious.
I think we do have to keep in mind that if the road commissioners, like the county commissioners, you take phone calls, you get text messages, emails, people dropping by. I was on the phone with a guy for 30 minutes today, and Tommy knows about this. We've been working with him, and Jeff's been working with him, and so you do a lot more than just show up for a meeting. And I think our road commissioners, they're out in the public, and to penalize them because of not being able to attend the meeting, I think it's pretty harsh. Because they're burning their gas, they're taking their time, and they're listening to people, and so I think that's something we need to consider.
This handout that we were,
Let's see, what did you get? Yes, those are the actual private acts, as Ms. Noy put it, the framework of what the discussion is tonight. No other framework is there other than the private act itself. And if you read through that, you'll see the discrepancies that applies for today.
well, this was laying on our folder today, so I would suggest that we read through this and we'll try to have something, a framework for the March committee meeting that we can look at and go over, if that's all right with everybody.
We need to.
All right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, let's put that in a motion.
I make a motion that we, hold this back to review in committee until the following month, or until we get a better proposal.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Huntsman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Go to item 5E, budget amendment. Amanda Hale, Finance Director.
Excuse me, sir.
D.
Skip.
5D. Skip D.
D. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. 5D, amending the private act for the county attorney. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'd like for this commission to also, while you're looking, Private Act 1949, Chapter 677, that for the attendance upon meetings of the quarterly county court and the court's finance committee, the county attorney shall be paid an annual retainer fee of $1,200. That's 1949. If we look at $1949, there was an amendment in 1967-68 Private Act. If we use $1949, it's $13.26 in a simple Google search of $1 to today. That's $15,000 a year rather than $1,200. If you use 67-68, that's $9.45. That's $11,000 a year. I implore you to take up the same point. The gentleman is paid $1,200, or the county attorney, I should say. It could be he, she, whomever it is. It's not, it's a retainer. It's a $1,200 retainer. That's all I'm simply suggesting, that this body, this finance committee, take up the notion that it not be incumbent on any other thing. It's a $1,200 retainer. The other verbiage in that, I shall read, well, you have it before you, but for legal services performed on behalf of the county, he shall be entitled to receive additional and reasonable compensation, et cetera, et cetera. It's there before you in the Private Act, 1949, Chapter 677. I ask this body to possibly look at the idea that it is an actual $1,200 retainer for the year. Minimal cost compared to what it could be.
Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Horner?
I think previous county mayor, Rusty Cantwell, got the same, and the prior before him, so maybe it's just the retainer to keep. I don't see double dipping anywhere.
Any other questions?
What-
Ms.
I
Green?
didn't get to the last.
Wait a second, Ms. Green.
I didn't mean to cut Miss Hall off. I would recommend strongly that if you're going to do that, that you let your county attorney and let your road commissioners know. Because I, for one, have sat there and heard ignorance of the law, and we just need to let people know. We need to be transparent. We need to educate.
Ms. Howe?
I didn't catch the last sentence that you were saying about,
Oh, he's been accused of double dipping. It's not
Oh,
double dipping.
okay,
It was a retainer.
well, anything we can do to fix the problem. If we can do anything on our part, then to avoid issues. Thank you.
I'd entertain, anybody else wish? Entertain a motion to do this, just like we did the previous one, come together with a framework and bring it back in the March meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Mr. Walker? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Richardson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now to item Item 5E, budget amendment, Ms. Amanda Hale.
So the budget amendment before you for Chancery Court is for $5,200. The clerk and master has asked to move money from her reserve account to cover the cost of these computers for her office.
Does anyone have any questions on that? Not, do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Cody, and the second by Mr. Huntsman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.
The second one is same scenario, but for circuit court. Teresa West has asked to move, this one is $1,065 from her reserve account to cover the purchase of some printers that she needs to buy.
Any questions on those? Not, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Ahern. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Reed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is just items of interest. Look those over. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chairman Long. We'll move now to the Personnel Committee. Chairman Thomas Doty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call the Personnel Committee meeting to order. If you have anyone wishing to address this body, you may do so now. Seeing none, we'll move forward. Item 3, old business, we have none. New business, we have approval of military pay submission. We have 1 employee, 4 years of service. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Move, Mr. Bell, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Horner, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Doty. Move now to the RV Camper Study Committee. I'm Chairman Kyle Walker.
I call to order the Camper Committee and RV Study Committee. I want to make an announcement before I ask for visitors. I just want to let everybody know this is just up today for discussion. We're not having any vote today on anything with the campers. This is all just for discussion. We will bring this up at a later date. I'd like to get this resolved before we get into budgeting, so by no later than April. But for right now, I think we need to study this a little bit more. We've got a little bit of room that we need to work on with what come out of plannings. I appreciate planning's working so hard on this, but we do have some things I think we need to amend and change before we make any finalized act on this item. So with that, if I have any visitors that wish to address the committee, you're allowed 3 minutes to speak. Step up to the podium, please.
Coffee, 8220 East AJ Highway. Thank you, Thomas, for helping us out with that vote. Guys, I just really am imploring you to please talk to these people that live in the camper. I mean, as long as they are following health guidelines and power guidelines, I don't see a problem. I mean, most people live in the county, so we can, kind of do what we, there's a lot of people that can't afford anything better. They can't. And if y'all want me to go and talk to the people in your all's area, get letters if I have to, as to why that is their set in life. Because I think the reason why the people that live in campers don't come to these meetings is, 1, maybe they don't know. 2, maybe they're a little intimidated, because they're going to think y'all going to look down on them because they're poor. And I mean, and there is a big oppression thing going on where poor folks are concerned. I see it every day. So, I mean, if you all want me to go check out folks, get written letters, whatever, just, I mean, I don't care to do the legwork for you guys. I don't. I just, it's really something dear to my heart because, I mean, my uncle lived in a camper till he died. I mean, so I understand what it's like if that's the only place you got to live. And your kid's gonna have to be put out on the street somewhere. I mean, we've got enough homeless people in this town, God knows, and they don't have anywhere to go as it is. Some of them get there 'cause that's their choice. That is true. But there's some of them there that life chose that for them. Something happened in their life that they couldn't control. So if y'all just give me a holler, let me know. I don't care to go do it. I just really want y'all to really talk to some of these people that live in these situations, just, you know, before you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you for
very
your
much.
comment.
We appreciate your compassion.
Anybody else like to speak?
Hello. Justine Jones, 3436 Old Kentucky Road. And I'm here today because I firmly oppose the proposed regulations that would prohibit citizens from living in campers on their own property. This is a direct infringement on property rights and personal freedoms. I want to lay out why this proposal is not only unjust, but also potentially unlawful and harmful to our community. The right to use and enjoy one's private property is a fundamental liberty protected by the 5th and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. The Fifth Amendment states that private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. While this proposal does not physically take property, restricting how property owners can use their land is a form of regulatory taking. Additional, the Tennessee State Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, guarantees that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property, but by the judgment of his peers or the law of the land. This means the government cannot arbitrarily restrict property rights without a compelling public interest, which does not exist here. Then there's the affordable housing crisis. Many people in our county rely on campers as an affordable housing option due to rising home costs. By banning this, we are effectively displacing citizens, forcing them into financial hardship or even homelessness. Don't forget property tax injustice. The county is happy to collect property taxes from these landowners, yet now wants to dictate that they cannot live on the very land they pay taxes for. Counties across the country have faced lawsuits for enacting similar restrictions. Courts have ruled that overly restrictive zoning laws and housing regulations that do not serve a direct public health or safety purpose can be considered unconstitutional government overreach. For example, in Tucker v. Town of Tequista, the court ruled that a town's attempt to restrict living in an RV on private property violated private property owners' rights. If this county passes regulations dictating what kind of homes people can live in on their own land, where does it stop? Will off-grid living be outlawed? Will we require residents to build houses only of a certain size, style, or cost? This is a dangerous precedent that could lead to further government interference in private property. And the county's concern is sanitation, utilities, or safety, then let's address those issues in a fair and reasonable way. Implement a permit system for campers to ensure they have proper waste disposal. Work with residents to create common sense regulations rather than stripping away their rights. At the end of the day, this is about freedom, fairness, and property rights. People should have the right to live on the land they own, especially when they are following basic health and safety guidelines. This is about protecting the rights of every property owner in this county. I urge the commissioners to reject this proposal and instead focus on solutions that respect individual liberty and property rights. Thank you.
Thank you.
For your comments. Anybody else like to speak?
I want to talk about campers. I lived in a camper in Pigeon Porch when I worked at Dollywood. Paid monthly rent. We had sewer, water, and electricity. But I also want to talk about hazardous waste and hazardous stuff that is around in your community. We grandfathered in junkyards. They lose it. Transmission fluid, oil, hydraulics fluid, and all that stuff runs into the creek. We didn't object against those, and we grandfathered them in. And they're not near as clean as a camper. We still got junkyards that are breaking laws, and nothing's done about them. It's not right. If you're going to grandfather in junkyards that are hazardous to your health, you should grandfather in campers and let people live in them that are homeless, because there's no telling where they're using the bathrooms. So I'm for helping homeless people and people that need help. I don't appreciate the junkyards. I didn't appreciate the landfills, and I didn't appreciate Superfund sites, but I got them, and I worked, and I wasn't homeless, and I still work, and I thank God that I'm able.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Delbert Nix. I'm the road commissioner in Hamblen County. I live at 335 Macedonia Road. And y'all, everybody's talking about campers. I know more about campers than anybody. I used to work for Lakeway Services years ago, pumping toilets for a living. I used to pump campers out at Cherokee Park. And they got a holding tank out there, and county commission and the mayor's office is getting money for them campers sitting down there on that property down at Cherokee Park. They got holding tanks behind their camper. I used to go down there every week and pump them out. And you all talk about campers on private property. They've got their own tanks in these campers. They could call Quality Waste. I used to work for Quality Waste for 7 years. I used to go pump campers out up the stuff on, like going to Bean Station, that new campground up on the left. I used to go up there every week and pump them campers out. And stuff, you can call it Quality Waste or a septic tank company. They got hookups to pump a camper out easy. Everything. That's the way I feel about it. I think you need to leave these campers alone. If you want to send them, these people might not know how to pump a camper out and stuff and everything. But I know they can call Quality Waste, and they'll bring a holding tank, a 250-gallon holding tank, and hook to their camper and stuff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Link Gibbons, 2347 Courtney Road, Whitesburg, Tennessee, 37891. As far as the camper issues go, I've spoken to at least Chairman Hahn about this. I think some of you are, I also spoke to Commissioner Harville about the issue. While I was encouraged to see that the restrictions were lessened in the most recent draft that's been sent to you all to consider, I still think that it appears to be a government overreach. I think most of you all would consider yourself to be conservatives, and I would encourage you in dealing with this issue to maybe take note of the 7 core principles of conservatism that were written in 2018 by our current Speaker of the House, Mr. Mike Johnson. First and foremost of those is individual freedom. Individual freedom in this case is the right to use your property in a manner that you see fit, so it doesn't, so long as it doesn't cause trouble to your neighbors. There was some discussion about what would be required in order to allow people to live in campers. I still think the restrictions are unfair, I think, at this point for those individuals. The storage provisions, I think, also are still overreaching. Again, the title of that document is the 7 Core Principles of Conservatism. Number 2 on that is limited government. And limited government is required so that individual freedom can be enjoyed by all of us. And so, of those 7 core principles of conservatism, those are the top 2. And this legislation or ordinances that you are considering certainly, I think, would be in violation of those 2 principles. So, as you all move forward in deciding what the final restrictions may be, I would encourage each of you to keep these conservative principles in mind in dealing with this situation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Joseph Hahn, 1400 Shinbone Road, Russellville, Tennessee, 37860. This proposal places the same regulation restrictions on all parcels from the smallest to the largest in Hamblen County. The state of Tennessee states that 5+ acres is not considered under subdivision. And at 15 acres, you can get a tax break if you put it, your A1 land under Greenbelt. As far as the hookup of the trailer, that should be the landowner's choice, in my opinion. If they want to strap them down, if they want to have them hooked up to electric, water, and sewer, that should be the right to the landowner. At the present time, they should be allowed to have the electric, water, and the public sewer well put up on their property as they so desire. No, not meaning what they're going to use their land for. If it be a camper, a RV, a tiny home, whatever. They are improving the value of their property by hooking all of this stuff up. That should not be restricted by a certain regulation or body of people. As the people that are living already residing in the campers, RVs, tiny homes in Hamblen County, there should be a grandfathers for that, as long as they are hooked up to the sewage system or a septic. If they choose to use off-grid solar, a well, or carry their own water, as long as it is not in violation of EPA or TDEC, that's a choice of life for the person. Also, this proposal does not include or consider natural disasters or medical hardship or loss of a home for unseen reasons. I've been told that if you have a building permit to be rebuilt, you can live in a camper in an A1 district. But our Cott County, the courthouse was flooded. If natural disasters can keep people from going in, a burn, they may not have the finances to go back and get this at the time.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Your time is up.
Oh, thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Linda Noe, this has been going on for months and months and months, going on a year now almost. You've had wonderful input tonight. This does need to be common sense, not take a rifle or a shotgun and just shoot it all down. It needs to be focused on certain issues, like having proper waste disposal. Whether it's having something like Mr. Nick spoke about, taking it to a dump station, or if you happen to have septic or sewer, disposing of it that way. it does improve property to have septic or sewer. That would be a way that somebody is going to get out of the camper, but they can't do it in one fell swoop and go, oh, I can't live here, I'll go buy that $300,000 house. These people can't do that. Not many people can do that. So it needs to be as common sense. Grandfathering is a great idea. Tiny homes. Why do we not allow tiny homes? Why aren't you focusing, and I'm saying you, why isn't the Planning Commission allowing tiny homes? That's a way for people to step up gradually, because that's the only thing you can do, unless they hit the lottery or something like that. But help people, allowing them to stay where they are, allowing them to hook up to utilities, allowing them to maybe move up to the tiny home is the next step for them. But don't just shoot it all down. It's something that needs to be gradual, and it needs to be reasonable considering the economic times. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Seeing nobody, I'd like to move on to old business. We have none. New business, this is a draft of recreational vehicles, campers, tiny home regulations from the Office of Planning Commission of Zoning for discussion only. We have Tommy McKinney here from our code enforcement. If you'd like to speak on this, Tommy.
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything really to say. I was just going to answer questions if anybody had.
Okay. I'm going to open the floor to discussion. Would anybody like to open the discussion?
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Howe?
Yes, sir, thank you. When I go take my car in to get the oil changed, she reaches in and touches my thing, and it says, oh, thank you, sorry, appreciate that. Okay, now here's where it was, now now we've got fresh oil in here, and so it's registered that I've done that oil change. And so I kind of like the idea of why, if you can show that, Mr. Nix, when you brought that up, if you can say, well, look, here's my schedule, this tank was emptied, and you can see it right here, here's my receipt. I expect they're abiding by the law that we need, and I'm kind of curious too why tiny homes are not allowed. And I do recognize, and we have a printout that is about the homeless, and we certainly do not want to be a body to create a homeless issue. And we see citizens that are strapped, and I think we need to show some compassion, but I'm certainly open to other ideas and suggestions, but thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Mr. Doty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As anyone that's been to the meetings knows, I am against banning people from residing in campers and such. I've made some proposals as to different ways about it. I am proud that our planning and zoning made some changes to try to bridge the gap between the two points of view. I'm still going to be against it. I would hope others would look at it as we are putting people out of homes. It may be what they can afford. There does need to be some regulation on it. That was part of what I had put forth. You can't dump your sewage out on the ground. You can't endanger your neighbors by their health or anything. It does need to be hooked up. If it's off-grid, that's great, but dedicated to itself, not just an extension cord. So I would hope and I would ask that all commissioners continue to look at this and we can make some adjustments and such that will be feasible for all. One thing in particular, and I have harped on this one from the minute it was brought up, and I'll ask everyone to look at it specifically outside of the residing in, which is the storage of the no more than 2 campers stored on a property. This is my issue with that. How many farms do we have in Hamblen County that have multiple cattle and horse trailers? They take up the exact same footprint as a camper. They have hay wagons, they have flatbed trailers to haul their equipment to and from different farm areas. I don't see that we can limit out something like this. I mean, drove by a place the other day, they had, it was in the city, just happened to notice it. They have a car hauler, they have a smaller enclosed trailer, and a flat trailer all on one piece of property. You know, can we say that they're okay, but just because they have campers there, that it's not? I think it is an overreach when we do any of those type of restrictions, and I'd just like to ask everybody to look at it deeply and consider the different options as we go forward. That's all I have, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you for your comment. Ms. Green?
I'm like Thomas, I have several things, so thank you, Thomas, for your vote the other night in advance. I appreciate it. First of all, years ago, they had a hardship clause, because my neighbor got one. He moved a single white in to take care of his parents. Planning Commissioner Anderson brought this up, and it was shot down. I don't see why we can't put it back. It is very much needed. It is something that would help us take care of our elderly in the community. And I don't know about you, but I'd fight if I had to move something in to take care of Mother if that became necessary. I don't think there's not one of us on here that wouldn't do that. So we need to look at it. It was shot down when it was brought up, and it should have at least been discussed and given the opportunity for people to speak on. Tiny homes, I've seen some beautiful tiny homes. Money is not flowing for most Hamblen County citizens. It is on a restricted basis. So I don't see why we can't include a tiny home in there. I don't know why it's not there, but I noticed by what I've read, it's not. Thirdly, Val, regulations. As long as sewer is not running on the ground, and I think Chairman Hahn, you was the one that educated me on what you called a honeypot, and I was a little bit dumb. I didn't know what it was. So Mr. Nix finished educating me on that. I don't see why that we cannot, if they dispose of their sewage properly. There was a lot of us in here raised without water and raised without bathrooms. I don't see why, if they are living sanitarily and they're not hurting their neighbors, I don't see why we can't have it. Now, fourthly, Commissioner Doty brought up the campers, storing your campers. I have 2 children, but I have several cousins and nieces and otherwise. I think it's a little bit idiotic, if not complete overreach, that only two can be parked on your property. And I thought maybe Doty'd come by my house. There's an enclosed trailer, there's a flatbed, there's a bush hog, there's 2 tractors with buckets, hay forks, grader blades. I live in the country. So tell me why in God's name we want to restrict a camper. Most campers look a whole lot better than the bush hog and everything else. Most of us that work on farms and live on farms have everything from plows to anything else. So I don't see it. I'm with Commissioner Doty on this. This is complete overreach.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else?
I think you have to have,
Yes, Mr. Horner.
you have to have some kind of regulations. I mean, it's like driving. Anybody wants to get a license and drive, but you've got to obey the speed limits, you've got to stop at the stop signs and do that. So, you know, you've got to have some kind of regulations.
If I may. But we're not restricting them from getting a car. You know, that, to that point, Mr. Horner, it's.
You operate, yeah.
Sir?
You're operating it.
Yeah, well, but and I agree, you know, we can have some regulations, but, you know, at least we're saying you can operate the car, yes. Oh, okay, thank you.
Mr. Richardson.
We're looking at two different things of interest here. One is storage and one is, you know, living space.
Yes.
I would suggest that, and there's people that are passionate about both sides of it. I would suggest that whenever we take this up, that we look at it as two different voting events. I think I would be more passionate. I would be more passionate about the living space than I would be about the storage. I think there's some overreach, and you know, there's places that you know, geographically, topography won't let you store on the side, and we've kind of addressed that in some of it. But I would like to see, when we vote for this, we look at two different issues, if possible. That's all I have.
I agree with you, Mr. Richardson, on that. And when we first brought this up, we never brought up storage of a camper. We were only bringing up the issue of living in the camper. Couple points I'd like to make, if y'all will let me make them for a minute. One thing we have to do with this, we have to take out the emotional part of it, that this is a poor situation. Because we not only have poor people that are struggling, that are living in campers, we also have people in Hamblen County that probably have $150,000 in a camper, okay? 2 brand new vehicles sitting outside their campers, equipment and other things that are living in a camper. The issue that we've got to address is, what are we going to call, if we allow this, what area do we allow this in? One thing I think we do not allow this in is a residential zone. If it's R1 or R2, which is residential, that was not made for a camper. We should not allow people to have more than one camper on a lot. If we have places out there right now that have 3 and 4 campers, that should be considered a campground and should have to fall under the codes that Tennessee state law requires that they abide by for a campground. If I have 2 single-wide trailers or more on my property, I have to become a mobile home park. We can't make a difference for campers that we don't make for something else. But we can't let it be an emotional thing. Yes, they should have proper sewer. But when we go to saying, well, we can have our tanks pumped, okay? Who is going to regulate that? Who is going to keep track for that? And Tommy, I ask you, do you have the manpower in your department to track every person that has a camper that is disposing of their waste on a monthly basis to make sure how much water they're putting in their camper, how much sewage we're putting out, and if they are legally hauling that sewage off?
Well, I choose not to answer that. I think most of the commission knows what the answer to that would probably be, Mr.
Right.
Chairman.
So does that make us as a county approve another employee just to deal with this one factor on a monthly basis, an expense to every other taxpayer in Hamblen County that doesn't live in a camper or doesn't want to live in a camper? Those are the things that I ask you as commissioners to go and think about and come up with an ideal. But I do believe as a commission, we need to resolve this, good or bad, before we get into our budget this year. And y'all know where my heart was. I'm totally against this. But I do think there's compromise. I think we can make good decisions with 14 people here, and we can make the right decision. And I am willing to listen to anybody's comment on what we should do. And I can be persuaded because I budgeted a lot on where I stood 5 months ago when we started this committee and where I am today. There's room, but we have to be fair, and we can't do it on a basis of, this is a poor community, this is what we do for poor people, because what are we doing for the rich people of Hamblen County? Because then they're gonna be in here next going, well, you done this for the poor people, now we want a break because we're rich and we've got money.
You know,
We can't do it that way. Thank you.
let me have one thing, let me say one thing here, and
Go ahead, Mr. Hall.
most of us live in a house, and when you built that house, I can guarantee you there were inspections, there were codes, and sometimes it's a nuisance. You know, you wanna add a porch or a deck to your house, you gotta get approved, and sometimes I think that's overreach. I think I should be able to add a deck to my house without, you know, Tommy McKinney coming out and getting on to me. But my point is, some of it's a hassle, but there's two things we have to keep in mind on this. One is safety, and that's what the codes are for, so we don't blow ourselves up or whatever. And the other thing is sanitation. And those are the only two things that concern me. I've got an issue in my district, in a residential neighborhood. A guy bought a house. He's a single guy. He's bought a house. He's got 2 or 3 other gentlemen living with him. He's renting rooms out to them. He has constructed, almost completed, he's built it by himself, a small structure out back that the word is he's going to move into that and rent the rest of his house out. Now, you know, so the last two things I'll say is let's keep in mind safety and sanitation, because I think we would all agree that safety and sanitation is the cornerstone of how we make our decision on this.
Maybe Mr. Nix can answer this question. What does it cost to go out and pump? What's the charge to go out and pump
Well,
one
the
time?
water waste, on the holding tank at Turkey Park, it's $150.
But just for a
small camper.
150-gallon camper.
The campers,
Yes.
to be honest about it, I got paid $17.50 an hour, and quality waste charged them, people, me go look up and pump it out, they charge them $125.
So how many people are gonna pay that a month? Or you go out a week?
Well, you
Week?
can.
I went out there, for the campground at the Green Station, I found the left. I pumped all them campers out. And I'm being honest, I've got the check stubs to prove it. They paid me an extra $125 a camper when I went every Friday to pump them out. Now, if you don't get taxes, the people could go and rent a porta john. The people living in campers, they could go rent a porta john for quality waste or ETP, and they would go out each week and pump the porta john. Now, if you won't get taxed, I won't even let you know about it, but it's just like the crusher out there. The crusher's got 7 porta johns. They don't have no hookup to water or city sewer. Even that Spectrum cable company didn't have hookup to the city sewer. They had 2 holding tanks in the ground. And I took the truck out there each week to pump that out. And I even showed this screen, the truck I drove, the quality waste.
Well,
And you won't get taxed, McKinney, Tom. You got to take gas on Cherokee Drive, right on Cherokee Drive Hill, ain't nothing but a drug hole.
yeah. Well, we run into that, Mr. Nix.
Give them 120 days, and y'all give them 120 days and stuff, and y'all regard it, and it ain't nothing but a drug hole.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Green.
We have enough homeless. our community project last year was closed for the homeless. And I, for one, when we set up at Daily Bread, was shocked how many homeless we have in Hamblen County. And I, for one, will not vote to make anyone homeless, no matter what the situation. For the simple fact, I was talking to a little girl Friday night, and this is what the child had me to say, and I have invited her in because I want you to hear what she had to say. She told me when she was a child, and she's adult now with 2 kids of her own. She said her dad lost their job and lost the home they were living in. She said there was 3 of the kids and her mom and dad. They lived in a camper for a year till her mom and dad were able to get them back in the house. But they were able to eat, stay warm, and dispose of their waste properly. If we can dispose of waste properly, I don't see why we can't work with everything else. I have heard each and every one of you talk about what you could do. And Chairman Hahn, you were an education to me when you went to talking about the honey pot, because I had never heard that term. But I don't see, well, you know, a few regulations, but we don't need to be coming down to the point that we tell people they can do this and they can do that when that's their property. I don't know about the rest of you, but my parents worked pretty hard for where I'm at. And I think we need to consider a few things, but we need to consider doing the right thing above all else.
Well, I encourage everyone to read through that proposal, and take it to heart. Write notes. You know, let's get into this and make it happen.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I got one more thing, just really quick, and I'm not trying to be confrontational, but, you know, yeah, we gotta think about it. We need to try to take a common sense approach to it. But one of the common sense things, and I'll just ask Mr. McKinney this because it was brought up about going back and checking and seeing if sewer was being disposed of. Do we have a policy that we go out after the first inspection or after the final inspection on a home, that we go back out ever to check and make sure they're disposing of it, still disposing of it properly?
No,
So we would be discriminating against anyone if we did that with a camper, and I just don't think we need to do that. I mean, we can't discriminate against people just because it's a camper over a mobile home or something else.
Well,
We
if they're
can't
putting
assume
it-
that they're gonna do bad.
But they're putting an in-ground system in-ground septic system, and that kind of takes care of the problem as opposed to needing to be pumped once a week or once every 2 weeks. And I could see it becoming a financial burden for the.
Yeah.
But again, we're discriminating against, and that's gonna get bad.
But
I think so.
I do.
when we say that, are we discriminating against our homeowners? Because when we build a house, I don't have the choice to say, well, I don't want to put a septic system in. I'm going to dispose of my waste the way I want to do it. I'm going to put it in a tank, have them come out and pump it once every 2 or 3 months, and we don't allow that. We don't allow a home to say, I don't want electricity in my house, I'm going to run my house on a generator. We require them with the building permit, do we not, to have a service fee? Okay, so again, if we're gonna treat a camper as a permanent dwelling, which would be a home, we should also have rules that proceed to that home. And again, I'm willing to compromise, okay? Just like Ms. Green said, she would never vote to make somebody homeless. I'm not here to make somebody homeless, okay? I'm here to abide by the rules that we've set forth in Hamblen County. And before this ever started, it was already on our books that campers were not approved for permanent living unless it was in a campground.
Mr. Walker, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah. I noticed the 24 months, so if somebody lived in a camper and they've got 24 months, right, to get on with the program. If they got a building permit for a home on the 20th month and started, you know, with their shovel and started to dig their foundation.
Foundation.
Yes, sir. It might take longer than 4 months. Would there be some extension?
So the way that, if I'm correct, the way that zoning says
Yes, sir.
is you get a building permit. You can live in it, stay in your camper, but you have to have your water, your sewer, and your power in, okay? So you have those basic needs, okay? The other thing is, you have to, you have 6 months. You can reapply for an extension under my understanding, but you have to show a progress, which means I can't say, January, I dug a hole. March, I put 2 blocks in the ground. 2
Okay.
months later, I put 1 log on top of it. You have to show that you're making a progress,
Yes, sir, thank you.
okay? So that's the only rule to that, to my knowledge.
Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, I may interrupt a little bit. Ms. Howell, when you get a building permit, you have 6 months to start that project.
Yes, sir.
And as long as you're moving forward with it, if it takes you 2 years to build your house, as long as you're moving forward with it and not letting it set 6 months at a time, you
Yes,
don't
sir.
have to ask for extensions, you don't have to do anything. As long as you're moving forward. If you have a permit for this house, then you can live in your camper while on the property where the house is being built.
Yes, sir.
You can live there until you get your structure finished and you get your certificate of occupancy from the building inspector.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Chairman Walker.
Yes, Ms. Green.
I'd like to iterate something I'm sure you haven't thought about, and I asked Miss Lindsay before she left. In Tennessee, it's still legal to have what they call an outdoor toilet, okay? In Tennessee, I asked Lindsay, and I have the email to back it up. So we need to look at all options, not just necessarily the sewer or the honey pot. That's still legal in Tennessee.
So is a sister. Sanitary. So is a sister.
Amen.
We have no more comments? No more discussion? I'd like to move on to item 5, items of interest. We have none. I'd like to adjourn the camper committee.
Thank you, Chairman Walker, appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. McKinney.
Thank you, Tom.
We'll move on now to the Calendar of Rules Committee with Chairman Thomas Doty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call the Calendar and Rules Committee meeting to order. Do we have any visitors wishing to address this committee? You may do so now. Seeing none, we move forward. Old business, we have none. Item 4A, under new business, we have the review of the regular calendar items. And before we get a motion to approve, I would like to note that on your regular calendar in your book, we already had the private acts listed under 8C and 8D. Those were for discussion and they will be removed from the regular calendar. Do I have a motion to approve as amended? So moved. Do I have a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4B is review of the consent calendar items. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion, Ms. Howe. Do I have a second? Second. Second, Mr. Horner. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Doty, appreciate that. Concludes our business for tonight. I'll drive safe, travel home. We stand
Commissioner
adjourned.
Hahn, before you shut down, may I have a word, please?
Yes.
I'd like to say as commissioner, I think it's a shame and disgrace that some commissioners are allowed to go through and some of us get scanned. Evidently, our officers need to be notified of what's what.
May I speak to that, please?
Yes, sir.
I'm the county mayor right now. I was scanned, Miss Green, coming in. The gentleman didn't know us, okay? If you introduced yourself, hopefully he understood. I, as county mayor, was scanned tonight. Your husband was a witness to that, so please be forgiving.
Charlie? You talk to Tom? Hey, we've got